Hey everybody, I'm Nathan from the Regent Park School of Music. Today I wanted to talk about key signatures. So your key signature is that little collection of sharps and flats at the beginning of most pieces of music. And in this video I'm going to talk about what that is, what it does, why we use it, and what it all means. And this is going to be part of a larger series, so it's going to be a three-part series. The first part, which is this video, I'm going to talk about what the key signature is and what it does. The second part, I'm going to talk about sort of the details of how we write key signatures, because there's a lot of specific stuff about how we write them. And the third video, I'm going to talk about the circle of fifths, which is a handy visual representation of all of our scales. And it's something that's really kind of neat to talk about. And it's a really helpful way to memorize all of our scales. So that's going to be the three-part series. And this is a continuation on the material that I did in the last theory video, which was what makes a major scale a major scale. So if you haven't watched that video, I recommend you go watch that first and then come back and watch this, because the information in that video is going to help you understand this material a lot more clearly. So check out that video and then come back and watch this video. Okay, so let's get into it. What is a key signature?
Okay, so the three questions we're going to address today are: what is a key signature? What does it mean? And why would we use one? And in order to address this question, we need first to understand what makes a major scale a major scale. And if you don't already know that, what you can do is you can go revisit the video that I released a few weeks ago on the Regent Park School of Music YouTube channel, where I talk about major scales in detail. So a major scale is basically a pattern of whole steps and half steps. And we talked in the last video about how when we start on C and we do this pattern of whole steps and half steps, that is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. When we do that pattern starting on C, what happens is we get all of the natural notes. So if we're playing on a piano, we would start on C and we would use all of the white notes. It would sound like this. So that's C natural, D natural, E natural, F natural, G natural, A natural, B natural, and C natural. When we move this starting note away from C, for example, to G, which we have right here, we notice that in order to keep this pattern of whole steps and half steps, we need to change this F to an F sharp in order to keep that pattern. So then we would have G natural, A natural, B natural, C natural, D natural, E natural, F sharp, and G natural. And that sounds like this. That's your F sharp, right? Again, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So what a key signature is a key signature is a way that we can represent all of the sharps in our key, in this case just the F sharp, in one convenient place at the beginning of our staff, so that we don't have to put a sharp on every single F all the way through. So that looks like this. You've probably seen this before. At the beginning, just after the clef, you'll notice I've got this F sharp, and here in the bass clef I've got it as well on this F sharp. And what that does is it tells us that every single F that we play after that, in this case it's only going to be this F and this F down here, they're always going to be played sharp. So now instead of writing a sharp on every single F, I can write it right here, and that'll remind us that all of the Fs are going to be sharp. And not just the Fs on this part of the staff. So you see how this sharp lands on the top line of the staff? It's not just going to affect the F that's on that top line of the staff, but it will also affect the F down here, and down here it'll affect every single F that comes after this key signature. Same down here in the bass clef. It's on this line, the second line from the top, so it would affect this F, but it also affects the F down here, the F way down here, even the F way up here. Every single F that comes after this key signature is going to be played sharp because of this key signature, unless you see a natural sign or a flat sign or some other accidental, flat sign. Without any accidental, looking like this, it means that we're going to play it sharp, always sharp, right? So what it does basically is it takes all of the information for how many sharps we have and what they are and summarizes it at the very beginning so that we don't have to write it on every single note. Let's look at another key with more sharps than this one we're going to shift down to A major. So A major, we've got C sharp, we've got F sharp, and we've got G sharp. So now we could write the scale this way, where we've got A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. We could write it like that, and we could write a piece of music that way using these accidentals, but then every time we have a C, an F, or a G, we would have to put a sharp sign next to it. What we can do instead, down here, you see the same scale is written, but we've taken all of the sharps and we've just put them all here. So now we know that any C that we have, any F that we have, and any G that we have, including ones that are way up or way down, will all be played sharp, unless we have a different accidental on it, right? So this summarizes all of this sharps information into one convenient spot so that we don't have to write in all of those sharps. We can do the same thing with flats as well. Let's look at this key. This is F major. And F major has one flat. It has B flat. The scale sounds like this. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, right? So we need this B flat in order to keep the pattern of whole steps and half steps that make it a major scale. Instead of writing the B flat on every single B flat, we can put a B flat here at the very beginning, and that's our key signature that will tell us that this B, as well as any other B that we might have in the piece of music, are all going to be flat unless there's some sort of other accidental telling us otherwise. But if there's no accidental, all of them will be flat, right? Let's look at a key with more flats. We're going to look at E flat major. So E flat major, we've got E flat, both E's are flat, all of the E's will be flat. We've got A flat, and we have B flat. So now, instead of writing a flat symbol on all of these notes, we can just summarize it right here. All B's are going to be flat, so that's going to be flat here. All E's are going to be flat, so that's both of these E's. And all A's are going to be flat, so that's this note here. Same in the bass clef. All B's are flat, so that's flat. All E's are flat, so this note and this note are both flat. And all A's are going to be flat, so that's this note is flat. So let's see what this actually does in the context of a piece of music. Okay, so here we have a piece of music by Bach in F major. It's called Invention Number 8 in F major. Now, as we just discussed, F major is a key with one flat, and it's B that's flat. So we've got the notes F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Every note is natural except B, which is flat, so we put that B flat here. And this key signature tells us that anytime we get a B in this music, so this B here, and this B here, and these B's here, all of the B's will be flat instead of natural. So that actually saves us from having to write in a B flat every single time we have a B, right? So the music would look pretty cluttered if we had all of these notes have a flat on them. You see what I mean? This key signature saves us from having to do that. It also lets us know that every note that we play, since they all conform to this key signature, every note that we play is going to come from the F major scale. And that's going to be a big part of what makes this a piece in F major, right? So that all of the notes that we see in this piece all come from this F major scale. Eventually, after this point, I'm just going to show you this little excerpt, but after this point we get to a place where he's using notes that are not part of the part of the F major scale. And that's okay. Composers do that to add sort of flavor. They add spice to their piece by moving out of the key and then eventually often coming back to this key. But for what you're going to see now, you'll notice that every single note fits in that F major scale. So I'll play it for you so you can hear. This is the scale. And when you listen to the piece, you'll notice that all of the notes in here are going to be from that scale. Here's what it sounds like. Right? So this makes all of the B's in this piece flat, and that makes all of the notes in this piece conform to the F major scale, which keeps this in the key of F major. And like I said, eventually, as we go beyond this part of the piece, he uses notes that don't fit into this, but then he eventually comes back to this key. So we sort of start in F major, we drift away, and we come back. Let's look at another piece that's in a different key. So this piece is called Invention Number 3. It's from the same collection, but this one's in D major. D major, we haven't talked about it today, but D major is a key with 2 sharps. So it has F sharp and C sharp. So this key signature here tells us that every single F and every single C in the whole piece is going to be sharp unless it has another accidental telling us otherwise. So this F, this F, this F, this F, this C, 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 F, C, all of these notes are going to be sharp because this key signature tells us. If we didn't have the key signature, we would have to have sharps on all of these notes, and that really makes a big mess of the score. So instead, we use this key signature, and that summarizes all of that information, all of those sharps, into this nice convenient place. You'll notice this piece, we have this G sharp and this G sharp. Just like I was talking about a minute ago, these notes don't fit into the key of D major. They're just there to sort of add color and add a little bit of spice to the music. It sort of starts in D major and then we drift to a different place and then eventually it comes back to D major. Now you might be wondering why we wouldn't just take these G's and put a sharp here, put a G sharp, and then we would have 3 sharps and then we wouldn't have to put those. That's a great question. If we look through the piece, we notice we have a G here, that's a G natural. We've got another G here, that's a G natural. We've got a G natural here, a G natural here. So before we even get to these G sharps, we already have 4 G naturals. So it's not, to put a G sharp here wouldn't actually make it any easier. It would actually mean we'd have to have natural signs on all of these to cancel out the G sharp that would be here. Also, by putting a sharp here, it actually puts us in a different key altogether. So that would put us in A major. So then we'd have a piece called Invention Number 3 in D major, but the key signature would be A major. It'd be a little bit confusing for us as players because we're used to seeing this and knowing immediately what keys we could possibly be in because there are minor keys that also share these key signatures. So that's why we don't put a sharp on the G to account for this. It's because it would actually make more work for us and make things a little bit more confusing for us in the long run. So D major has 2 sharps and we do that there, and then any of these extra little notes that add color, we indicate those with an accidental rather than more notes in the key signature, just to keep things simple. So here's your D major scale. Here's what the scale sounds like. And here's what the piece sounds like. And you'll notice that up until we get to this first G sharp, all of these notes are going to come from that D major scale. Right? So the main reason we use a key signature is to really simplify the notation for us, so we don't have all sorts of sharps all over the place to read. But it also really gives us as a performer a lot of information. So by seeing these 2 sharps here, I immediately have a sense of what keys I could possibly in this case I'm in D major. It also gives me a sense of the sorts of chords that might be part of the piece. It gives me a visual sense of the shape of the scale that I'm going to be using so that I know how to approach my instrument when I'm playing it. It just gives us a lot of information as players that really helps us to play the piece more effectively and maybe to learn the piece a little bit more quickly. And it helps the composer to write the piece in a way that's not using accidentals all over the place and making a mess of the score. It makes the music a bit neater and easier to read for everybody. Yeah, so that's sort of the introduction to key signatures. The next part of this series we'll talk about how we write key signatures. So there's a very specific way that we put these sharps onto the key signature, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video.
Okay, so I hope that helped to clarify some things around key signatures for you, and I hope you understand them a little better now than maybe you did before. So between now and part 2, which hopefully will come soon, your challenge is I want you to find a piece of music that has a key signature that you've never seen before, maybe one with 6 flats or 5 sharps or something. I want you to go through that piece of music and write in all of the accidentals. So if it has, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp, I want you to go find all of the Fs and put a sharp, all of the C's, put sharps, all of the G's, put sharps, just to get some practice around thinking, okay, in this key signature, I have these notes that are sharp, so where would they actually be in the piece? I want you to sort of start to internalize what effect the key signature actually has on the music itself. So there's your challenge. Find a piece and just write in, even just for 1 or 2 lines of the music, write in all of the sharps that you see. That would be written in if the key signature weren't there. So go and write them all in manually. Okay, that's your challenge. I'll see you hopefully soon with part 2. Until then, have a good one.